we talked about opportunities because businesses grow from opportunities. The most common opportunity comes from the micro environment. So we'll look again at what that is. And in the micro environment, the most important one are the customers. Okay. So we're going to talk about the environment, and I will start talking about strategy. The two are connected, and in fact, marketing research is connected because you need to do market research in order to review the environment, but you need to understand what is the environment in order to know what you're going to be reviewing. And why are you doing this? Because you want to be able to create good strategies, and the strategies are the actions that will, not the actions, the activities, the broad activities, the long-term activities, the direction, I think that would be a better word, that will fulfill your objectives. What will fulfill your strategies are the tactics, and the tactics are the short-term activities that you will be conducting. So there is like a Russian doll, like from small to big or from big to small. The big thing are the objectives, the smaller elements are your strategies, and the smaller elements of your strategies are your tactics. The tactics fulfill the strategies, and the strategies fulfill the objectives. So that's essentially the process of strategy planning, and organizing and monitoring. But you can only do this if you have identified good opportunities. So before I pursue on the concept of opportunities, I want to congratulate you again for completing the first week pack back. So it appears maybe that the system in backpack right now is probably letting you think that this is the second week, but essentially that's the first week that will count. Um, I will get an Excel spreadsheet at the end, and this Excel spreadsheet will have columns. Each column will be the session where I expect you to be posting, and then the rows will be your name. So I forgot how many, but there's like 13, 12, or 14 columns. And each time it's going to say that you posted a question and commented on two other people posts. But the posts, obviously this is more than ever, people are talking about COVID-19 as the main subject, more than before for some reason. And sometimes they're sort of not so relevant to business. They look like biology posts. You know, how does the virus mutate, and what makes the mutation more dangerous, and these kind of things. I mean, that's far from the subject of business. So I don't recommend that you go in those directions. Try to keep your questions related to business, and even more so to marketing, and even more so to the subject that we have covered so far. So this was a two that I found interesting: is repeat business because of satisfaction or because of good marketing. And again, if we go to the definition of what is marketing, marketing is satisfaction. So good marketing is will culminate to creating a process that will generate satisfaction and measure satisfaction. So that's really the center of the reason how you can say that good marketing is being implemented. It's because it has generated positive satisfaction. So we looked at the satisfaction construct and discussed the theory of disconfirmation of satisfaction, when satisfaction is the difference between expected performance and perceived performance. And if it's disconfirmed, therefore you are satisfied. And if it's disconfirmed, not disconfirmed, therefore you are dissatisfied. And if you're dissatisfied, you don't repeat. So good marketing is satisfaction, and satisfaction is really one of the reasons why people repeat business. No, there was another question that I think it's sort of a little difficult for anyone to answer. Is a recession truly coming? Um, I think if people were to say every year, oh, there's going to be a recession coming, there's got to be a year where they're going to be correct. And sometimes that's what happens is there's so many people that are saying so many things that eventually someone has to be correct. This is very hard to know because we live in a world where things happen very fast. I remember um, that was a year and a half ago. I used to tell students that they they should take and pay attention to the app called TikTok. And I remember the students, for the majority, were sort of smiling or laughing at me because they were saying TikTok is for it's for young people, and therefore TikTok is not going to get anywhere. And obviously now TikTok is one of the fastest growing social media app. Things change. In fact, with my class back in 2007, we created the Facebook account for CSUN, not for anything else, but for the entire university. And so we created this big Facebook account. And then when we told the university that Facebook was going to be something that's going to become big, um, the university didn't know what to do with it. So we gave it to a group of people who were not in social media. I mean, there's not too many people in social media back in 2007 anyway. And so it took a while for the university to actually start using it. But we were using it in the class and showing everybody else that this was something that was going to become big. So there's quite a list of things that I've predicted like this. And I don't want to give you a big list because the point I'm trying to make um, is it's possible to make predictions when you have some experience and so forth, but there's things like the recession. It's very hard. What worries me is the fact that we are producing a lot of we're printing lot of dollars, and the more dollars you're printing, the more you also risk that the dollar value will go down, right? So that's something that seems to be something that is likely because it's a sort of mathematic. More of something makes it less valuable. But then we don't know. There may be more people who want dollars. So if the number of people, I mean, obviously we're printing more money, so that's a fact. And if there is the same amount of people, or worse, less people that want dollars, then becomes an issue. But if you print more money, it's possible that the currency value will go down. But if the currency value goes down, it's also possible that there's more people that are going to want to buy American-made things or things that are purchased um, with some dollars. But it's also possible that there may be exchange, international exchange, that are not purchased with dollars. So all of these things are there is a reasoning behind. There's some rationale behind, but it's very difficult sometimes to make predictions. However, it's important when you're in business that you learn to make as much uh, collect as much research in order to maximize the chances that you will be correct in taking a position against another in predicting what's going to happen next. That's important. Sometimes that has happened to me is you make a decision which is very innovative and conceptually seems very good, but people are not ready for it yet. And it may happen, and in fact, sometimes it happens, but it happens such a long time after you started working on this that you sort of miss what I would call the opportunity. So again, the opportunity is what? So I say it many times because because it's one of, if not the most important concept I believe in business is this concept of opportunity. And it's a very important concept in marketing. And sort of, I would say the marketers are the people that are very much in the front line of understanding the situation where there are opportunities. I see someone as their hand up. Do you have any questions?
Yes, Professor, I got a
Okay.
question. In terms of opportunity, can you explain something to me? I was trying to understand Skype in terms of an online platform or communication platform has been around for many years,
Yes,
but Zoom became super popular during the pandemic. So
yes,
can you explain to me why did Zoom get so popular as opposed to Skype? Because I mean, we use it in classes. I mean, we use Zoom in classes. We use it in business. I use it to communicate with other people in other aspects. But we never use Skype as much anymore.
that's right.
So I don't understand why one became super popular and the other one is just kind of just basically flatlined, or you don't really, it's not really being utilized that much. And also in the stock market, Skype's didn't go up as much as Zoom did. So I don't understand why one went up as higher than the other.
Yes, that's a very good question. So, in fact, it's interesting because the marketing director, the US marketing director of Skype, is the spouse of a very good friend of mine. And many times I told him, I said, hey, why don't I take Skype as a client in my class? That was the first time I said that. That was, I think, 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And I said, because to me, there's got to be so much more than what they're doing right now. And it would be great to for the students, because I think students, people undervalue them when they are actually put into a situation of looking at something that is new to them. People undervalue them, and I'm not out of subject. I'm answering your question, because they don't realize that sometimes you have to think simply, not think about all the obstacles, and sometimes you have to also you have to be very practical, but just thinking about what do I need. I don't care if it's possible, not possible, how it's possible. This is what I need. And so students in general that are taking a bachelor are between 20 and 30 years old. And when you are in that situation, you don't think about uh, obstacles as much. You just want to get what you want. So this mindset is very good for creating. So I said to him is I see that there's so much more that could be done, and I have the feeling that because Skype was one of the leader, the first company that came with an app where people could communicate for free, they became comfortable not having too much competition. And to me, what they are missing is on the camera activity, because it was very much of a phone activity that they created. You take press on the app and call people. But I thought it would be so much better. In fact, in 2000, I worked on a project which was I called the coach communicator, and the coach communicator was this idea that I had where you would actually take. So back then, I was thinking of a laptop, and laptop already had cameras, but you had to buy a camera that you had to plug inside the USB. And then I was thinking, you get a laptop, you plug this camera to the USB, and then you have some kind of wireless connection, and you can go around and show people places. So I was thinking you could this did not exist, but today I can explain it like this, but to make it easier. But imagine if a Uber is, you would see where people are actually driving around. And I was thinking there would be a service where you would see where people are walking around. So like you're in LA and you want to visit a museum in New York, you could actually see people that would have this device, which was this computer and this camera, and you could ask them to go places and visit New York. Um, so that would be more of a leisure way. Another way would be a professional way. Let's say you want to witness something. You have a house in New York and it got flooded. You're an insurance company and you want to meet with the insurance. The insurance company sends their coach communicator, and then you look for a person that has this device close to your house where you got the flood, and then they come and both these people are not there, but they are meeting through these people that have these devices. And I remember telling them that that was my idea in 2000. I don't know that it exists today. Obviously, today it exists because all you need to have is a it's just a cell phone, and you have this possibility to do that live. but in 2000 it didn't exist. And I remember when I was telling people this functionality and it would be a great business. I was in the business school in Paris, and I was working on this as an exercise like you're doing right now with Califia Farms. And the students thought I was amazing, but at the same time crazy. And as they went into the project, they went, "This is possible," and all that. And in fact, that year I also did a project for a company called Yahoo. So I was working directly with the marketing director of Yahoo for France, and he came to the class. And I remember back then, that was in also in 2000. Then, you know, we were telling him that there was a competitor coming, and that was called Google, and that was going to become a big problem for Yahoo. And I remember the marketing director of Yahoo. I mean, they were the biggest one back in 2000. This is to show you that things change. They looked at the situation, and when we told them about Google and the fact that they had a search engine that had essentially nothing, just a search engine, and that this was in some way superior to their search engine, which had a lot of stuff around it, and it was sort of confusing. It was getting harder and harder to understand what they really were about. And he, he was not upset, but he was sort of not happy that we were talking about this unknown small company that could be a problem for them, like Google. Nah, you guys are delusional. We're not worried about Google. We're worried about Netscape. We're worried about AOL. I mean, they were worried about AOL and so forth. And we told them, I don't know, you should pay attention to Google. So obviously now you can imagine that it's been 20 years plus, and it's been a long time that Google took over their space. But big companies, I think, are the one that have to be worried about um, the most of losing their position. Because when you are number one, you eventually become comfortable, and you have a very hard time identifying who's capable of taking over. And oftentimes, the one that you think is capable of taking over, it's the next big ones. It's like Coca-Cola is worried about Pepsi, and what not worry about Red Bull. Who's Red Bull? You know, and it's the same thing. So I don't think Skype. I use Skype a lot from I think it was 2005 or six till what 2012, and then I forgot what I used, but then started using Zoom, and I was telling everyone about Zoom. And so what I liked about Zoom is the fact that the video allowed you to meet with multiple people. And when I say multiple was what at the beginning it was maybe 20 or 30 people, and with Skype it was one or two. And I was like, no, the one or two is it's too insufficient. You got to find some solution. So what did Skype miss is I think Skype missed several opportunities. One was the opportunity that the world was becoming more um, work by distance. People started working more by distance, and it they didn't have to meet as much. So this I really lived it, because um, still today it's really changed. But there was a time where you couldn't get anyone to meet uh, through some video thing, you know. And even the young people. I mean, 2 years ago, I was doing projects with the MBA students, and they were not upset that I asked them to use Zoom, but they were not happy. They didn't know what was the point. And to teach them, and we would spend always like every beginning of the class 30 minutes just to tell them where to click and so forth. So this is becoming less the case. So I think the world was getting ready for this, not in 2019, but before that. And that was a trend that was in the environment that was missed by Skype. Another thing then is the functionalities. Is I think if you have a company that offers video, but you can only have 3 or 4 people, there's an opportunity for someone to come with video for 20 people. And if someone offers 20, then video for 100 people. So once something becomes the norm, then it's an opportunity for someone to beat that norm by offering more. So my view of why did Skype miss the opportunity of Zoom is because they became too comfortable, and they became too sure and confident that they were not going to be losing a battle of distance communication using phones and apps and all that. And obviously, there was Hangout by Google as well that was sort of, I think, before Zoom. And so comfort is not good. Did that answer your question?
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So maybe a long answer to your question, probably, but at the same time, is I wanted you to see that the mindset when you work on projects and try to identify opportunities, the mindset is that you have to understand that there's no situation that cannot be solved. There's always a solution, that the solution most of the time comes from the customers, right? The
Mm.
customers have problems, and then you can constantly come up with a solution. So in that situation with Califia Farm, is obviously, I hope you started looking at this company. This is a company that is on fire. They're on fire in the sense that they have a very fast growth, and not only in the US. They're so successful in what they're doing that they have a quite a large expansion overseas as well. So it's really fun to see this the beginning of it's not the beginning. They've been in business for 10 years and they've really grew a lot along starting a long time ago. But I think it's exponential now with their overseas growth. And I think you can come up with some kind of gap that you find, some kind of problem that you find in the environment, that they could be a player. So let's say maybe you find something that has to do with diabetes, and you find that the number of people having problem with diabetes is growing, and then you find a source, a date, a percentage, and then you therefore the outcome from this is to say, can we make, let's say that you find, obviously I'm making this up right now, but let's say you find that almond milk is actually helping with um, diabetes by reducing some kind of biological function or improving whatever, and therefore you could make a specific product that will be really aiming at the people who have a problem with diabetes. But again, you have to justify that there's enough people to want to create a product that help with diabetes. You may find that you want to create a product that not only help people with diabetes, but you're looking at a broader issue, maybe an issue which has to do with sugar. So the almond milk has been very successful, talking about the fact that there's more calcium than milk, than the traditional cow milk. And so that's been a big thing about it. But there's many other aspects that they use to say that it was better. Look at other aspects um, beside the calcium. So obviously, if you say in your opportunities that the number of people in the United States from age 8 to 20 women are the one missing the most calcium, according to the American Calcium Bureau from 2020, and blah, blah, blah. Therefore, we're going to sell more almond milk because people need more calcium. Even though this is correct, it's correct, but it's not really necessary, because this is why Califia Farms was starting to be successful 10 years ago, or why they created this company 10 years ago. That was the opportunity. So thinking that you're solving a problem by or guessing or how do you say that, reusing the opportunity which defined the genesis, the start of the company, the beginning of the growth of the company, does not help you. It's like if we're doing Coca-Cola and you came and say, we're going to do diet Coca-Cola because people are doing diet. Yeah, but it already exists. So you have to find opportunity not to justify the current and the past activities of the company, but you have to find opportunities to justify some new directions, strategies, some new tactics, some new product that they may have to create. Okay, So based on an opportunity which is today and that you see will continue in time and that they can take advantage today and that they will grow with it. So something that already exists. You don't make up things. You don't make up opportunities. So you don't make up an opportunity and saying, we see that in 2023, people are going to want clear almond milk. It's going to be clear. No more white almond milk in 2023. Why no more white almond milk? Because people are into clear drinks. They want to see the thing. So that's what that we think that's what's going to happen. It's like based on what? I don't know. We we read this article and it's not really reputable and it's not from a very good source and so forth, but they say that, and so we're going to say, bingo, let's pick that. No, it has to be something that lasts for several years, that start now, and that's not too many competitors as well. You could go after something that has quite a large number of competitors that are jumping on the bandwagon, and therefore you're going to be just another one jumping on the bandwagon. But usually these are less interesting because you sort of miss the opportunity of the big growth. But that does not mean, because if it's something that's going to keep on growing and grow fast and so forth, and it only started now, that doesn't mean that you can't take a big advantage of it. It's still there, but you have to be aware of the fact that you're not in the pioneer jumping on this opportunity, but you're part of the bandwagon jumping on these opportunities. So I'm discussing a lot of concepts right now, and there may be some questions, but I'm going to keep on moving. So let me know if you have a question. So when we look at the SWOT, I have to repeat this many times, is this two broad concepts. There's the intern, so you see it's written on this slide on the left side. Intern and extern. You have to understand the difference between the two. When you do an internal analysis, is you analyze the company. For the most part, this is not too difficult. There's a lot of information that you won't have knowledge of. You're not an employee of Califia Farms. And even if you were an employee of the Califia Farms, may not have access to all the information. So it is true that you won't have access to all the information. So there's going to be some inferences that you're going to have to make. Inferences is based on what I read, I believe that they have made this much profit, or based on what I read, I believe that they have made this kind of growth based on what I read. So what I read is 10 years ago, they had one product. 5 years ago, they had 6 products. And today, they have 45 products. So I can say from 6 to 45, that's 8-time growth. So it's like a 800% growth. So they had an 800% growth during the past 5 years. So these are inferences. So you have, when you do research, there's a lot of information that you wish you have, but you don't have. Therefore, you have to make inferences. You don't make inferences based on a drawing something out of a hat, just hoping that you can guess on just like this. You make inferences by also looking at objective information, and based on this objective information, you try to make the best guess, essentially. But it's a guess based on other information that allows you to guess some other information. That's why it's called inferences. Okay, so internal strengths and weaknesses, not too difficult. What's difficult is the external. So why do we call one intern and one extern? Is because you have to remember that you do not have any control over the external factors. You control the internal, you don't control the external. Why do I say this? Is because you can't create opportunities. You can't cancel opportunities. You can't change threats and so forth. They are just the threats. So you try to increase your strength. Therefore, you're less susceptible to the threats, and you're better prepared for the opportunities. Okay? So moving on, where I want to go is very much looking at the environment. So this um, table is something that you should know very well for the sake of doing research. You will do research on what? You will do research on demographics, which means that you're going to look at the age of people. You're going to look to see if they have kids. Um, Chobani, for example, is a yogurt company that you have to study. When Chobani started, they had like one yogurt. Now they have many sorts of yogurts. The yogurt they were making were for the whole family, the entire family. Now they make yogurt for very, very young, older, very old. So they make multiple for men, women, and all kinds of different groups because they understand demographics. There's not just one single consumer of yogurts. So they adapted to the market. So they went after demographic opportunities. Economic. I mean, they could do uh, a Chobani X Gucci. So it might be a Chobani yogurt, but inside a pot, a container designed by Gucci. Obviously, it would be very expensive because they would say there is a growing number of people who live in these areas that are very expensive and they have discretionary amount of money and they would want something that that is not for everybody else. Okay, natural is the capacity um, to identify resources. So in natural here, obviously, you have to think about the the almonds and the whatever you're going to use in order to make that product. Maybe it's now you have some cow milk. Maybe it's more almonds. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's fruits that you're going to incorporate. So the resources in terms of the there's having lots of them available versus not too many available. Sometimes it's not just the fact that they're available, but it's the difficulty in getting it and maybe some kind of regulation related to the use. So the packaging regulation based on the use of plastic or something like this could have an impact. Technological is in the technology involved in the distribution, the technology involved in the production, um, the technology involved in reaching the customer. All of this is very important. Political, so that's all the regulations related to the food consumption and the expiration and the processes in making the product and the storing and all of that. So that's likely to be threats for sure, but there could be some opportunities, political opportunities. And then the last one, cultural. So cultural is very important because we're dealing with consumers. So customers, clients are the most important, but obviously that's in the micro environment. Now, if you're looking at the macro environment, you're looking at the culture as being an element that is very important because it's a broader element which has probably sometimes which will affect your customers. So your customers may be somewhat cultural leaders, so you'll identify quicker because your customers, they will give you information that's going to be somewhat individual information, but which is going to tell you about a future trend, a future movement. And so you learn from your customers, then it's verified in the movement. The movement comes from the culture. But sometimes you see it in the culture, in the movement, and then it comes to your customers. So an example is you could see it in a culture outside of the United States, and that tells you maybe this is going to come to your customers. It's going to affect the culture of your customers in the US, and then you see it coming. But by picking this ID, this cultural ID, outside of the country, sometimes he can bring it in the country. In fact, Chobani, that's what he was. Chobani is a foreigner who came in the US and was very fond of quality yogurt. And when he came in the US, he couldn't find quality yogurt. And he says, I'm going to make great yogurt for myself. And hopefully there's other people that care. And that's what happened. Any questions?
Professor,
Yes.
I missed what you said for technology. Can you repeat that?
So technology is the new technology that would be available to make the product in a more efficient way, or cheaper, or in larger quantities, or maybe in better quality as well. But it could be also how you could do distribution. I mean, Amazon right now is filing a patent, for example, which is a distribution patent, which is kind of crazy. It's some research that they found where, based on the data that they collect on you, they can even anticipate before you buy what you are going to buy. So the problem that they have is inventory. And when you're going to buy it, and from where are they going to ship it? And so based on all the data that they're collecting from everyone, they're going to pre-guess where those color shoes and those blue shirts and those different designs are going to sell the most, and then stock them there and already predetermine. They're already doing this. You go online and suddenly you're getting information on things that you may have checked the day before. And you go, how do they know? Or because they have cookies and they're following you. Now, this is more than the cookies. It's in analyzing the stock and the storing and all of this. So it's a new patent. So it shows that they have a very good understanding of who we are and what we like. And so that's technological access. So they create the technology, they create the patent. Once they've created this patent, then they own it, and they're going to not be, we won't be able to copy them. So you create new things based on new technology. Technological change may come from not just that, but it may come from the machinery that you have. It may come from the packaging. I remember when I was a young person, I was a little kid essentially. I went with my dad to a trade show. That was in the 70s, and my dad, we went to a booth that was pretty big, but not as big as they became, because they became a multi-billion-dollar company. It's called Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is a cardboard company that had this idea of making bottles in cardboard. So bottles in cardboard now are very common. This was 40 years ago. And but I remember, because my dad had a company making printing machines, a pretty large company making printing machines. So he was invited to look at this company making cardboard, and for the maybe selling one of his machines, so they could be printing things on it and all that. And I remember I thought to myself, I was a little kid, that I wouldn't want to be drinking milk from a bottle that was made of cardboard. And this was not such a great idea. I was so wrong. Tetra Pak. I mean, you can put Tetra Pak on the internet. I mean, it's 100,000 employees or whatever. It's massive. And they became the number one, probably, packaging company in the world because of that technological advancement that they did, which is make cardboard that would hold water, contain water type liquid. So technological things can change and can have a huge impact. I mean, the first company that started bottling and using Tetra Pak as the supplier of the bottle made a great advance in the sense that it was cheaper. This one thing also is the storing. So when you buy products, you have to store. So what was really good for the company buying this Tetra Pak is that the bottle would collapse. And so you could buy bottles that came from far away and you would have less cost in moving them and storing them and so many benefits. So technological changes will affect the company, and you sometimes can change the position of your company, not by creating a new product, but just by identifying a technology that you can employ it and that will make you more competitive. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So all of these are inside the circle, which is yellow. And so this yellow circle is called the macro environment. The macro, so it's MACRO, affects indirectly the blue circle, the company. It affects it indirectly because there's another environment which is between the company and the macro. It's called the micro. So the micro, the pink circle, affects directly the consumer, and the macro affects indirectly. So normally, you would think that the environment that has the biggest impact is the one that directly affects the company, and that's usually the case. So as a general rule, we said that the pink micro has a direct effect on the company, and the macro has an indirect effect. However, it's not always the micro that has the most impact. They all do, but at least you have to recognize this, because the macro indirectly affect the customers, for example, which eventually will directly affect the company. So there is this cycle that goes on. So the most important factors in your environment. What is the most important factors in your environment? The one that usually has the most impact. If you were to study only one, if you were to only guess one and say, I only have time to study one for my next opportunity, which one would you study? Of all of these?
Would it be the customers?
Yes, the customers. So the customers, that's correct. Thank you for your answer. Is the most important. So what I want you to remember is very simple, is you're a business student, therefore you're gonna have to take care of business. Most likely, you're gonna take care of business that you want to grow, not a business that you want to maintain, and not a business that you want to fail. I'll say there's 0.000% chance that that's your objective in life, is to take care of business to make it fail. 0.000. So a business that you want to maintain, I don't know, maybe there's 10%. 90% is that you want to grow. If you want to grow a business, which is what 90% of you are going to do, is you have to identify opportunities. So learning about this is not something that you want to do in order to pass this class. It's something that you want to do because otherwise, why being in business if you're not interested in opportunities? So you're interested in opportunities. Now that I trust the professor, I understood the professor, I knew before even coming to this class that I have to identify opportunities. If you forget everything I said since the beginning, what you need to remember is, if I care to identify opportunities because I don't want to be poor and desperate and I want to run a business that grows, what is the most important thing that I'm going to look for? The opportunities. What is the number one opportunity? The customers. If you understand that, can repeat it to someone else. You're sitting somewhere next to a unknown person and you can explain that to them, means that you understood 90% of what I've explained since the beginning of this class, which is business grow because of customers. Business who are customer centric are therefore thinking like a marketer. And if they are thinking like a marketer, means that they understand that these customers will generate the next opportunity to grow.
Professor?
Yes.
You said the micro or the macro had the direct effect on the company.
Okay, so you see, for example, here I have a microphone which is on my wire. The microphone is mic, M-A-C-R-O, is next to my mouth.
Yeah. Hmm.
So the one that is next to the customer is the micro.
Okay.
The one that is far from the customer is the macro.
Yeah. So the direct effect is micro, the indirect is macro.
Exactly. That's how I remember. I took my first bachelor in 91 or whatever, 92, 91, 92. And so I was like you, I had to learn things and so forth. I was like, macro, micro, it's just a word. I understand what it's talking about. That makes sense. The opportunity and identifying the factors. How do I remember? And that was my little trick. The microphone is next to your mouth. So it's next to the customer. And the with the A, B, C, D, macrophone, macro, that one is the one that is indirect. Okay, so any other questions? No. Okay. So we are the I would say the next big one, obviously, which one would be the next big one in the microphone, the micro environment? Which one would be the big one? 80% of the time after the customers.
The competitors?
The competitors, that's correct. Good answer, yes. So, I mean, that's, if you don't succeed, it's because you're not providing a solution to the customer. But if you don't succeed, maybe because there's someone else doing it better than you. We just talked about this at the beginning, 20 minutes ago, Zoom versus Skype, right? Zoom versus Skype is what this gentleman's question was about. So why is Skype not doing better? If Zoom didn't exist, it's possible that Skype will be in better shape because we'll be using, Skype more. But because there's Zoom is less necessary. So competitors don't generate that much opportunities. It's possible, but most of the time, your competitors generate a threat. Like 95% of the time is a threat and 5% is. So customers tends to be the opposite. 95% is an opportunity and 5% could be a threat as a general rule. And competitors is the opposite. So competitors, you have to study them because they are like the big chunk inside your SWOT, inside the threat section. The publics are those people that are not customers, but they have a role to play in the sense that they will have something to say about your company. So they may be the organizations, the group of people, the union, the trade, your neighbors in your where you have your company that may be directly affecting how you run business. So this public you have to take into account. The supplier, I would say, are probably the third. Suppliers are probably the third most important factor in your micro environment. Suppliers are very important because it's not too many companies that have a vertical integration where they can do everything. Most of the time, there's one element or many elements or lots of elements that you require someone to supply something for you in order to get the product done. So in the case of Califia Farms, I imagine that they depend on someone that makes the bottle. They probably don't make the bottle. They depend on someone making the tops. They depend on someone printing the labels. They depend on someone making the boxes. They depend on someone providing almonds. They depend on someone providing flavors. So all of these suppliers, each one of them in itself has a very small impact, but they all required, and it's the combination of all of what they do that makes your product so good. So you have to constantly monitor that you don't have everything that comes, or too many things that come from one supplier, that you, as you grow, you have to be careful that what you are known for and like your trade secret, it's called, your trade secret is like the formula, like the flavor formula and all that, may not be made by just one supplier. So you have the full flavor product, finished product people are consuming, made by 2, 3 suppliers. So if one fails, you have 2, 3 to carry, 1 or 2 to carry on. And if they want to play games with you, you don't rely on just one. You can move to another. You sometimes don't do that. Instead, is you get the suppliers to make part of the product. So someone makes the almond milk, and someone makes the flavors, and you do the mix. So they don't have control. You do this because when you become successful, your suppliers also become successful. And as they become successful, they may increase their demand because they feel that your success is to put things together. Your success may be too much of a marketing success, and therefore they feel that the quality of the product comes from them giving you this great quality, and therefore you own them more than what you're giving them. And they may even feel that they can do it by themselves because they don't understand the importance of marketing. You see, what's important is that distributors, suppliers, and manufacturers are very different jobs. And the best situation is when people actually respect each other and realize that what the other person is doing is not as easy as it seems. And it's a real job and a real skill to do that. Once the whole thing starts being successful, people tend to think that they could do it by themselves. And as they start developing this ego and some sort, they start to minimize the input of the other person and try to say, we can do it ourselves. And then, not always, but often when they start trying to do it, then they realize that it's not as easy as it seemed. And sometimes they just waste a lot of energy and resources and they fail and they learn. So in a company, you can decide to integrate where you would take over the other sides. And it's possible that you can do that and be successful. But you can't do it without totally realizing the pros and cons of that integration. So your suppliers should be on your side in the sense that they see that they are successful because you are buying from them more and more. But at the same time, they should be innovative. They should themselves recognize the macro factors. They should themselves understand who are your customers, but what are the indirect factors that are affecting them and affecting you, and that you can bring a solution. So sometimes you could be a manufacturer that keeps being successful because you have this amazing supplier that gives you product that gives you competitive edge. But if you have competitive edge from a supplier, that puts you in a position that you have to be very careful because your competitors may develop a relationship with that supplier and also get the same competitive edge, or better because they strike a deal or they buy shares of the supplier, and then the supplier cannot work with you anymore. So suppliers have such a direct impact on your company and on your customers that you have to be very careful and you have to study them. I think personally, I do have, today is the 8th of February. I have some really good opportunities, at least one that is fantastic for Califia Farm that I'm not wanting to talk about because I want you to keep working at this and come up with your own. Sort of the good news this semester is that nobody should fail because I have a very good one that I'll be happy to give you probably end of this month, beginning of next one. So to bail you out in case you can't come up with anything. Now, having said that, I actually come up with, I think, good ideas every semester, but not too many people take them because eventually people develop their own. So, and sometimes they feel, and that's why I'm talking about this, because we talked about competitors, is sometimes students feel that because I told everyone about these opportunities, they're not going to use it because they think everybody else is using it. But what happens is most of the time, people don't use it thinking that everybody else is using it. So at the end, nobody uses it, which makes it very interesting. So what else am I missing here? The intermediaries. So is it clear with so far those factors that I've explained? So intermediaries, yes? Any, okay, so intermediaries are, they are not your suppliers. I mean, a supplier is an intermediary, but it's going to be the people that do certain tasks for you. So your distributors. For example, Califia Farms, I don't think, but I may be wrong, I don't think they own the distribution of their products, which means that there's a company that don't make any food products, but what they do is they have contracts with food suppliers, and they pick all of this meat, all of this fish, all of these poultries, all of these bread from bread manufacturers, and then they act as wholesalers or they act as retailers to sell it to the customers. And so I would imagine that Califia Farms have probably some trucks, maybe they own some trucks that they bring to a hub warehouse, which is like a dispatch warehouse that doesn't belong to them, where supermarkets can actually collect, pick up, or buy some dairy and milk and almond and healthy food products, and then they go there and they buy it from these people. Califia Farms may have a service of selling the product directly to the retailer, because some retailers are so big that they can take the supply, which means, I don't know, Albertsons as a hub. I believe Albertsons and Vons are the same, and Pavilions the same organization. So they have a big warehouse somewhere, which is for all their supermarkets around the area. And then the producers, who they buy a lot from, sends one big truck from their factory directly to this hub. And then from this hub, they dispatch to the different retail space. That's possible. But intermediaries may be that truck company that they don't own. The intermediary may be the person that does the marketing for them. So most companies have at least one person in marketing, and this person may be working with some advertising agencies. They may be working with people that do their social media. They may be working with an accountant, with a lawyer, and all of that. They may not have all of these resources inside the company, and these are intermediaries. Okay.
Professor?
Yes.
The Califia Farms, I know that you've been mentioning about almonds a lot, but they also have other products like oat milk as well. Would you like us to solely focus on the almond part of it, or the company as a whole?
A company as a whole, because like the opportunity that I thought has nothing to do directly. It could be with just almond milk or oats. I think they are in a position where they could. I don't think the Califia Farms should be selling duck and chicken and things like this, or beef or whatever. It's a farm, but I think that's too much of a stretch. And what I want you to so thank you for your question, because now you're starting to think, is I don't want you to be product focused. I don't want you to come to us, to Califia Farm, with a solution which is product driven, where you say, oh, you know what I'm explaining right now If I have 10% of the students that understand, that's a miracle. But right now, in a month, it will be 90%. But when you work for a company, you don't want to limit yourself. I said that last week where I was saying, if you make drill bits, like the metal piece that you put at the end of a power drill to make a hole, right? If you make drill bits, you don't want to describe your company as a drill bit maker. If you make drill bits, you want to define your company as a hole maker. You help people make better holes, maybe faster holes, cleaner holes, more precise holes. You're not in the drill bit business. So if you're in an almond milk business, you're in the almond milk. The next product you're going to create is most likely to be in the product that has to do with almond milk, 99% chance. But when you're a business owner, you don't do what we discussed at the beginning, is you don't close your eyes. You don't become too comfortable. You open your eyes wide open, and you look and you go, okay, what business are we in? We're in the business of providing food, that's for sure. Healthy food, food that is good for the environment, food that makes people happy, food that are delicious, food that are healthy, food that helps with problems that they may have with their health, specific problems. That's what we do. And that's why we came up with almond milk. And then we did almond milk. And then we found about oats. And then we came up with oats. So what's the next one? Could it be something that has to do with oats? Could it be something that is just different, but it still makes sense with Califia Farms, right?
Yeah, that reminds me a lot of how in legal writing and legal documents, if you are too precise, it cannot be applicable to other things. But if you are the right balance of flexibility and precision, you're able to describe what you're doing, but be flexible enough to not be cornered into one angle.
Yes, so you're right. That's exactly, it's you hear it that way, but when you are doing this as a lawyer, it's because you don't want to limit yourself, because you want to be able to pull yourself out.
Yeah.
See, that's I mean, that's the way lawyers, I was going to say the problem with lawyers, but yeah, but it's a little bit like this. Is that like you and I, we do a contract, we could be okay. I'm a lawyer, a very good lawyer, and you don't know that, and we do a contract, you're most likely screwed, because I'm going to write the contract in a way that I can promise something that I can get out of it. So then I know already from the get-go. But then you're going to read it, that you're going to see what I promise and not understand the wording for that it's going to allow me to get out. So they're already working on this. They're already working on showing that they know what you want and know what I want, but at the same time, make sure that we have left some kind of gap somewhere, that the day, if we can get out. So that's why it's wide and broad and all that in many ways. That way you don't constrain yourself. In marketing, that's not what it is. Exactly. What it is in marketing is that you need to be focused on satisfying the need. Remember that? And I said that last week. Needs are not created. Needs are broad spectrum. You need to breathe, eat, drink, sleep, have friends, love someone, be loved by someone, and feel good about yourself. That's it. So then you could say, gee, I'm in the business of making people feel good about themselves. What do you do? I run an airline company. Oh, what about you? What do you do? I'm in the business of making people feel good about themselves. What do you do? I make tires. Airline company tires? Geez, that's very different. How come you guys have the same definition of what you do? Well, it's broad because I want to be able to not define myself as a tire maker or as an airline company. I'm in transportation because I don't know. Maybe tomorrow you transport people in a different way. There's a technology that I identify, which is an opportunity that makes me not be airline, but I can take people, sail, and move them from the left of the country to the west of the country, because that technology allowed me. So if I'm in the airline and there's a technology that allows people to be beamed up, then I'm screwed because I see myself just using planes. So I've over focused on the process and not on the need. The need is transportation. I'm an airline company, and my definition is I make people move swiftly, safely, for the right price, and all these things. This gentleman at the beginning asked me about Skype and Zoom. I feel like telling you, what about Uber and taxi? Seriously, I felt very sad for the taxi driver because they've been doing this. I mean, my great grandpa was a taxi driver in when was he a taxi driver? I think in 1908. 1908, my great grandpa was a taxi driver in Paris. He bought himself a car. Well, he was a taxi driver before with a horse. And then he bought a car and he said, you know what? I'm going to do it with my car. And they said, what? With your car? Ah, you crazy? You're a taxi driver with a horse. Yeah, but now there's a car. I'm going to do it with my car. And then from that time, 1908 to when was Uber created? I don't even remember. What, 2013 or whatever? Taxi driver, that's how they did it. And then someone came and say, hey, let's look, you use an app, and then we'll put people that are not taxi driver, but just they have time and they'd be happy to make extra money on the side and use their car. And it's technology. People must have told these people that they were crazy. What I find crazy is that the taxi driver, like my grandpa, went from his horse to his car, but then people waited for someone else who is not a taxi driver to use the technology. Technology was a change. And therefore, they should have not said that they were taxi driver for a taxi company. They were just helping people move from places to places, right? So I don't know if you understood that. As I say, 10% understand. That's amazing, because it requires you to not be product focused, but it needs to be need focused. The satisfaction of the need. Why do people buy product from Califia Farms? I bet you it's because it tastes good. It tastes sweet. Because it's healthy. So therefore, if today is oats, I'm in oats. If tomorrow is sorghum, I do sorghum. I don't know. If the day after that is rice, I do rice. It's the opportunity is driven by people. The opportunity is not driven by the product that I'm good at. That's very, very important. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for your questions, because it helps me make sure that you understand and sort of.
Hey, Professor,
Yes.
I was gonna say I think the killer of the taxi driver was the internet, was apps like MapQuest and
Yeah,
and
it's
apps
technology.
like,
Technology.
yeah, because before you needed a taxi driver because you didn't know how to get to the airport or to certain places. Now that you can do that, it substituted the license of a taxi driver for a plain Joe with a car that could just take you there, and
Yeah.
it's much cheaper.
Exactly.
In terms of Califia Farms, I mean, they have an environmental need that they represent on their
That's correct.
on their website. Things about how they use less water, less emissions, and a lot of different environmental needs that they're supporting. But they also have a broad spectrum of products.
That's correct. Very correct. I agree 100%. Yes.
But what's to stop them? I mean, distribution, I think, is a small facet of it. But what's to stop them from getting in part with hotels and restaurants where they exclusively work with these products? I mean, something like a Ritz-Carlton or you know, Hilton only offering Khalifa Farms as their brand base and their coffee, and even something like Winchell's Donuts only using their creamers as a base, as opposed to some of the cheap stuff that they offer.
Price.
Yes, if you look at their website, they have a little story. There's not a lot of information, but there's a few video on YouTube as well, where you need to look at these to sort of, it's like a investigator, like a detective. You have to read between the lines. So you see in those information they say in one place is we even make, one time we were working with people in very high quality coffee store. They're called baristas. And we work with these baristas and they say, we love your product. But when it comes to making the best coffee, we can't because it's not creamy enough and blah, blah. And this is when we created, that gave us the inspiration to create the Califia Barista product. And then we made it super creamy and all this. And we only sell it in high-end coffee store and all of this. What it makes me believe, when I hear that this is a little bit more of a B2B, business to business. So if what you're saying, so now I'm going to tell everyone an opportunity based on what this gentleman just mentioned, is the opportunity is that large number of high-end hotels and restaurants and coffee store are looking for a non-milk, high quality milk substitute when it comes to make coffee for certain areas. I mean, there is some areas where people are really into their coffee. This is like a big deal, and they will pay 2 times more than other places to have this amazing coffee. And so they're looking for the substitute, they're looking for accuracy, they're looking for the coffee place that would have made the effort to find the right ingredients and put forward the fact that they're using this and this and that. So I think it's possible that Califia would develop almost like a line of product for the franchise. So as an example, it could be maybe Starbucks is not the right partner for this or the right business for this. Maybe it would be more like, I mean, there's more fancy coffee places.
Dunkin' Donuts?
Which one?
Dunkin' Donuts?
No, Dunkin' Donuts is a low-end coffee place. I'm thinking, well, here's the thing, is I think Califia Farm is not
Coffee Bean.
Yeah, Coffee Bean, maybe some other place like that. But there's other
Bills,
one.
maybe?
Yeah, Fields. That's the one I was thinking. So here's my thoughts. Califia Farms is not the cheap almond milk. It's in the expensive almond milk. So if they do a B2B, they're not going to go with Dunkin' Donut coffee store because that's a low end. It's value. It's good value. Remember, value is what you expect to buy and what you get, but it's not the high-end value. So they're more the high-end value type of product. So they're going to look for B2B of partners that would care. So Fields is a good example. Thank you for that one. Because Fields is not everywhere. And the people that go to Fields, they don't end up at Fields by mistake. They go on their phone, they go, okay, I need a coffee. Let's go to Fields. Where is the Fields? Well, 20 minutes away. Okay, fine. We'll still go there. Well, there's a Starbucks at 3 minutes. Now we'll do 20 minutes to Fields because it's Fields. These are the type of partners that would embrace even the mission. The mission is what this gentleman that was just talking was talking about, the fact that they care for the environment, blah, 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 blah. So what I'm telling you now, I don't want you to be confused, and right now you are, is opportunities are not what you are going to do. So what I'm discussing right now is like the broad idea. If I have to phrase this as an opportunity, is I have to phrase it as a fact. The fact is that high-end coffee store, such as Fields Coffee, are very selective in the product that they use for making coffee. For instance, for milk, they don't use the Altadena milk. that you find in every corner store. They use just milk from blah, blah, blah farms. I'm making it up, but I'm pretty sure it's true. And they have started doing this 3 years ago because these two companies have a similar mission and objective of high quality products. That's it. Source, date. That's it. That's the opportunity. Then the idea is for Califia Farms to do a B2B product specific made for those franchise or chain owned restaurants, bar, and whatever. It needs to be a few, otherwise it's not worth it. But it can't be a mass. You can't do this for McDonald's. It's too many. It won't fit. But it has to be something that is maybe family owned. There could be a few family owned that are like key store that they key places, key location where they would want to be there and have this partnership to get their name with the reputation associated with them. It's good co-branding. It's possible, but it's a co-branding strategy. But it's also possible that it's just to expand the business, expand the volume, and expand this relationship, and expand people experience drinking good quality creamer from almond or oats or whatever, and go, gee, it's as good. I can't tell the difference, but it's better. Let's say better for you. The reality is I'm not a doctor, so I don't know if it's really better for you. It's possible. So that's another thing that you need to research. I don't know if it's better, but you need to find what it's better for, and and so if you say that oats is better for your digestive system, for example, I'm making it up again. I'm not a doctor, nutritionist or anything, so I'm making it up. Oats is better for your digestive system. Is that a strength or is that an opportunity?
Strength.
No, it's an opportunity.
Oh.
And why it's an opportunity? Because everybody who makes oats is better. So how to make it a strength, as you say? Califia Farms has 25 milligram of oat fiber, which is 2 times more than anybody else in the industry, according to the website page, blah, 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 8th of February 2021. That's a strength. They have 2 times more fibers, which helps, with digestive or whatever you put there. Then opportunity is Fauci on CNN 2 days ago said that to fight better against the coronavirus, people should have a clean digestive system where they could try to get that eating more fibers. Opportunity, next one is oats is the cereal which has the most fiber that helps with digestive system, according to Johns Hopkins Medical Hospital 2018. Opportunities are facts.